All right, welcome to another edition of Weather and Climate Chat with Monsoon Mike Regensberger and Dr. Michael Davis. Dr. Davis, welcome to a new semester.
Thank you.
We apologize there was no episode last week, and that's actually my fault. Had a last-minute conflict, but that was a good week to take off because it was the end of spring break. Oh, spring break, yeah, we wish. The end of winter break and going into the spring season, a spring semester. So we took off that week, and now we're back, and just as we come back for the spring semester, what do we have in our hands but a snowstorm?
Yeah, we got our first full-fledged snowstorm. And if it wasn't for that little dusting that we had earlier, I would have nailed that.
You would have nailed it because you had today. You had tomorrow. I looked at my paper. Yeah. Well, in all fairness, I think we said we agreed to do that as our first inch. Did Kutztown officially get an inch that day?
I don't think they did. I think they got half an inch.
Okay, then you still technically might have.
Well, let's call it a draw.
We'll call it a draw. It was the first reasonable amount of snow that day, close to what I said, and then you're going to get tomorrow for the other side. So, yeah, Sooty and Rossby would agree that we both are a draw again. So,
yes, let's go with the draw.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, so this particular podcast, we're just going to focus entirely on the storm that everybody's been talking about all week because really that's all people care about at this point. So let's just have at it. This thing showed up on the models around Sunday, and pretty consistently have stayed in that general region. I mean, I hear some folks criticize, those models, what good are they? Because the forecast keeps waffling. But actually for, Washington, D.C., Delaware, Baltimore, the models have been very consistent that they're going to get a lot of snow. It's been us that's been such a difficult part because of a northern cutoff of where that precipitation ends. Explain why we have that crazy cutoff that we have to worry about.
Well, the main thing we're going to have to worry about is the path of the low pressure.
Sure.
Typically, when you get these low pressure systems in the wintertime, that can be your heavy snow producers, any sort of change in track can be
even by a few miles.
Yeah. And those are pretty much like pinpricks pretty much in terms of where they're actually going, and that'll mean you either get hammered or not much.
Right.
And the models have been consistently showing that Maryland, D.C., Baltimore are going to be right in the crosshairs of this thing. And some of the models do have a little bit of a wavering that we've seen, but they've been pretty consistent for most of the week. But even that little bit of a wiggle essentially can put us either in feet of snow or just a couple inches.
Yep. And that's what we've been dealing with all week. So, so the weather forecasters down in, Washington, not to say they've had an easy job this week because they're getting ready for, 20 inches of snow, and they're not quite used to that in Washington.
Which is going to cripple the city.
Which is going to, because I don't know if you saw, but the other day they had an inch from that little system, and they were pretty much crippled from an inch. So they're like, geez, we can't even survive an inch. How are we going to survive 2 feet? But us, the models, just those little waffles. We've gone from everything from, this area could receive a foot to down to 2 inches. It's going to be a crazy gradient. As close by as Scranton, maybe just a couple inches.
Yeah.
And as close by as Philadelphia, over a foot maybe, right?
Yeah, you have maybe even probably approaching 2 feet.
Pushing 2 feet, yeah.
Now, I will say, I think it was Tuesday or might have been Monday that GFS model was showing us like a 30-inch swath going up toward York and Lancaster. But that's since moved a little further south.
Moved a little further south. This morning is 6Z, Friday morning, kind of pushed it a little bit further north again, but still out of our area. So,
yeah, I don't think we have to worry about 2.5 feet of snow here.
I don't think so, yeah.
But it's definitely going to be a heavy snow, and there's a lot of moisture associated with this because it's coming from the south, so it's probably going to be along the wet, heavy types of snow.
Right. Some people have asked me that. And from a health perspective, we have to put it out there, folks, to not go out there like a madman and start shoveling this stuff because heart attacks have happened in this kind of snow.
Yes.
So,
take your time.
Yes.
These are types of systems that typically get called panhandle hooks.
Yeah.
Because they form pretty much around the panhandle region of Texas and Oklahoma, dive down south, pick up all that moisture, and then come up and run into the cold air. They dump their moisture. The colder temperatures make it snow. Some of the more bigger snowfalls on record have come from these types of systems.
Okay.
Now, I remember one day when in Ohio, several years ago, when we had our record 24-hour snowfall, my mom and I, when we were cleaning out the driveway, we had to take turns essentially. We would go probably about 2 feet, and then we had to stop, and then
That's
go
how bad
another
it
2
was.
feet. And we had probably about a 30, 40-foot driveway, so it took us
Wow.
all day pretty much to dig out of it.
That's quite a no snowblower.
We did not have a snowblower at that time.
Okay. Wow.
Because, well, it was out of service. Let's word that.
It was out of service. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay, so back to the storm. Let's approach this from a number of different perspectives. First of all, and I like to say, and I mentioned this on my page last night, everybody gets excited about, is it going to be 3 inches, 9 inches, 12 inches, 15 inches? But, no matter what number of inches it is, tomorrow's not going to be a pretty day. So
yeah,
you're pretty much going to want to stay in tomorrow.
Yeah, best to stay home tomorrow.
Yeah.
There probably will be a lot of headaches out on the road.
Yeah.
And it's best for, I think, your own safety just to stay home, hunker down, enjoy a movie or stay warm, get a cup of hot cocoa.
Hey, we haven't had one of those days in a while, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
Start time, midnight-ish tonight, you think?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my midnight time that I had on my Facebook page just yesterday.
Okay.
The models have been showing a little bit
earlier.
faster.
Yeah.
Probably around 9 o'clock or so. I do think it'll probably more like flurry activity. The main snow is not coming till midnight-ish.
Okay, so that's fair. And looks like pretty much all day Saturday, wrapping up Saturday night, wee hours of Sunday, it looks like at this point.
Yeah, it's almost like a 24-hour
Yeah, pretty much
period,
a 24-hour
pretty much
storm.
midnight tomorrow to midnight Saturday, or midnight Sunday, I should say.
Right. That does always get
I
confusing.
get my days right.
Yeah, that gets confusing with that midnight stuff. Okay, let's look at the other perspective from this storm. I've heard the National Weather Service actually throwing the B word around. I think there's a blizzard warning down in Philly and Baltimore, Washington. And they might be doing that a little bit loosely to keep the public safe because the credentials to get to a blizzard are pretty high. I don't even think the blizzard of '96 technically made it. I heard because it was just shy of a couple miles per hour wind.
Yeah, you need winds of 35 miles per hour or greater.
Yep.
You need visibilities less than a quarter of a mile, and you need those conditions to persist for at least 3 hours. So there's a time interval, a wind, and a visibility issue. Oddly enough, there's not a snow requirement
Really? Okay.
for blizzards.
Okay.
So you could have very little snowfall and still have a blizzard.
So, do you think we'll be approaching blizzard conditions, or maybe not so much us, but areas just to our south approaching blizzard conditions?
Yeah, we here in Kutztown, the surrounding area, are not going to have a blizzard conditions.
Right.
Conditions might be pretty darn close to a blizzard,
Right.
but we're not going to be blizzard criteria. The further south you get toward,
Philly.
say, Philly, parts of central and southern New Jersey,
Delaware.
Delaware, even
Yep.
into Maryland, then they're running the risk of that because there's going to be a very tight pressure gradient with this when it undergoes its second, what we call cyclogenesis stage, or essentially a redevelopment stage off the Carolina, Virginia coast once it reaches the ocean.
Right.
And you're going to get winds approaching 40, 50, 60 miles per hour near the coastline.
What do you think the winds are around here?
I'm thinking probably 20, 30 miles.
So
somewhere in
one
that
thing I
range.
am a little bit concerned about, you mentioned stay warm, but if we have 20, 30 mile an hour winds and a very heavy snow, could we be seeing some power failures?
Yes, we could.
Okay.
That's a
Yes.
definite possibility, along with the wet, heavy snow
Right.
building up on power lines. And you can certainly have a lot of weight build up on roofs, other sorts of structures. There could be some cave-ins, hopefully not.
Wow.
But whenever you get those big, heavy, wet snows, it always runs that risk of causing integrity failures for roofs or even power lines. So keep those in mind when dealing with this system.
Absolutely. So keep watch of your structure. Listen out for any weird creaks or anything like that. And
I've had to shovel off the roof of my house a couple times.
Oh yeah, well, sloped roofs like I have are usually not as worrisome as like flat roofs, like supermarkets and stuff. Those are usually the first ones to go because they're so flat,
And especially if you're in like lake effect areas like Ohio.
Right, you guys are used to that stuff.
Yeah,
that's a regular occurrence out there, unfortunately. Not to make light of it, but it really is. Okay, so that's what we discussed. Okay, so now let's give people what they want. Everybody gets excited about exact totals. It's going to be really tough to give an exact total with this one.
I would probably preface this by saying that a lot depends on where the low actually ultimately goes.
And we should also throw out there the bust potential. There still is a chance that we could be low or high with this as well. So,
yeah, if it starts going further north,
yeah,
we're going to be in for a pounding.
Okay.
If it goes further south, then we may actually get relatively unscathed.
Just a light to moderate type snow. Yeah. Okay.
So it depends on what's happening. Now, the models yesterday were starting to show a lot more in the way of a southerly track, so perhaps they were hinting at something, but now it seems like they're correcting itself for further north now.
Yeah, short-range models, especially the NAM, which is one name that the weather geeks know, kind of went a little crazy last night and this morning too. But the NAM is known to get a little drunk sometimes.
You have these flare-ups by the models, and you kind of have to take them with a grain of salt. You have to see if they're more consistent from model run to model run.
There's another one out there that I admittedly don't even really watch that much, but my cohort Stormwatch Sal was saying that the SREF was pretty juicy in our area too.
I haven't checked that one recently, so I can't vouch for that.
Okay.
But the models, I mean, they're pretty consistent if you want to look at them from run to run.
Right.
But you have to, again, think about does this make sense, or if it's going to look like something impractical, like what we were saying yesterday with the low going due east. I've never really seen a low
that didn't
come
look
off
right.
the coast
That didn't
and go
look right.
due east. It's always some type of northerly component to it, whether it's a north or a northeast or just a slight north trend. But this was almost 9 degrees due east.
And that's where meteorology and not modelology, as they say, comes in, because you have these guys out there that are model huggers, as they say, and as soon as they see that, storm's done, east, over. But you and I, being that we have a little experience with this, you much more than me because you're a certified meteorologist, looked at that and we're like, that doesn't make sense. So sometimes you just have to throw out some of the models and just use your own brain.
Models are pretty much used for guidance.
Right.
They give you an idea of what's going to happen, but the meteorologist is probably familiar with the local area, what can happen this time of year, what happens when these storm systems move in. So if you see that happening, immediately say that something doesn't look right here, but it's an idea of what could be occurring. Gotcha.
Okay. We talked about the possibility to bust on the lower high side. One thing I want to talk about is I've seen and I'll let you explain this. I've seen some meteorologists use the term mesoscale banding. They're like, if a particular town or an area gets under like a heavy band of snow that just sits there for a while, you could see the phenomenon where, say, one town has 22 inches and a town 5 miles away has 9 inches. You want to explain a little bit about that?
When we talk about meteorology, there's different scales of meteorology.
Right.
It ranges from microscale, which will be pretty much several feet, to a planetary scale, which looks more at the hemisphere or the whole globe.
Right.
Mesoscale refers to maybe about tens of feet to hundreds of feet, or even up to, say, maybe a mile or two. It's not that large, but if you're talking about towns, it can potentially impact where you have these really, I'm going to call them relatively small bands of heavy amounts of uplift. Now, that's where you get this mesoscale banding. Some things you're talking about is, you may have heard of something known as a deformation zone, where you have uplift being generated in layers of the atmosphere above the surface, which will help bring up moisture, uplift, and then you have the snowfall that can be produced in that regard. So if you have these bands that are coming in with these deformation zones, if they get set up over your area, you have enhanced uplift, which can then bring you heavier amounts of snow.
Or could that happen in a storm?
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
It's a definite possibility, along with any other type of storm. We actually see them in summertime features as well.
Right.
It's just snow. It's just rain as compared to snow.
Now, on the opposite end of that perspective, one word that snow geeks hate to hear, or two words I should say, is the infamous dry slot, where sometimes you get it just cuts off. Could that happen?
There has been mention of a dry slot.
Yeah.
A dry slot is simply a drier layer of air that usually is aloft.
Yeah.
And when you get that dry air coming in, essentially sucks up all the moisture because it's dry air, it can hold more moisture.
Right.
So that will limit your amount of snowfall that you could potentially see. Usually this gets very well represented in water vapor imaging or looking at models, again, showing relative humidity levels. But the problem is, how far inland does it actually go? Because it's going to be coming from the northeast, so toward New England.
Gotcha.
Where that is it actually going to come in? The winds are going to be quite strong, but there's going to be a lot of moisture here. So it'll be interesting to see if the winds or the moisture essentially win out in this battle.
Okay. Well, folks, we've pretty much given you all the things that can go right, can go wrong, explained lots of terminology for you. Let's just give people what they want and give our official Dr. Davis and Monsoon Mike calls on this
Sounds
one.
good.
So what do you think? I guess we'll kind of break this down because obviously we're focusing on Kutztown, but we have faculty and staff and students that are going to run home to the Lehigh Valley or down to Philadelphia or up to the Pottsville area or out to Harrisburg. So we'll try to cover those areas as well. But for Kutztown proper, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking along the lines of maybe 9 to 12 inches myself.
Okay.
I feel like we're going to be kind of on that border, but I'm going to go with a more northerly track at this point.
Okay.
I think we're probably going to be looking at a 9 to 12 range.
I was a little more pessimistic, but now I'm starting to question that given some of the latest model trends. I was saying for Northern Berks, 4 to 10, Southern Berks 6 to 14, but now I'm starting to lean toward the higher end of that range at this point. But again,
so you're joining me.
I'm joining you, yeah. But again, if a dry slot sets up in our area,
then that'll more toward the lower end.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think you and I are generally in the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 area.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds fair. Obviously, much more toward Philadelphia. I know we have a lot of students that live in Philadelphia. What are we thinking down there? Like a foot and a half?
I'm leaning like 16.
Okay, so about a foot and a half.
Maybe 20 at most.
Which would definitely put it at one of the bigger storms down there, not biggest. 83 and 96 will still beat it.
Yeah, I think they're going to
93.
be getting a lot of maritime influence from the ocean, so you're going to have a lot of moisture to work with, and the air is going to be in place. And I think they're going to be in for a thumping.
Yeah. Okay.
At least a foot and a half.
Okay, so a foot and a half around Philly. So then do the math, folks. If you live somewhere between Philly and Kutztown, like Lansdale, Quakertown, you're going to be somewhere between that 9 to 12 and foot and a half to 20. So,
and I'm thinking like around Lancaster, York area, like 12, 16.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be the real jackpot area. Okay. Now the hardest part is and I have some students that were asking me, live up near Scranton. Those people, I feel bad for the forecasters up there. They've gone from big snowstorm to 0 to, well, I guess we can still squeak, 6 inches out of this. So what are you thinking for north of here?
That's going to be a tricky one.
Yeah.
I really
don't
got
know what's going to happen. Pity the meteorologist up there, yeah.
They're right on that edge.
Where do you think that northern band kind of cuts off?
I think there's probably going to be a big drop-off just a little north of Schuylkill County.
Okay.
Be my guess.
That makes sense, yeah.
I'm probably going to say 3-4 inches.
That's what I'm going with. Yeah, I'm going 2-4 inches tops up there. Yeah,
somewhere in that neighborhood.
Unless we see a last minute jog north,
Yeah,
then
if it goes a little further north, then maybe a little bit more up there.
Then they'll get in on the party.
The area around Scranton's going to be the one that sees the least amount of snow of these areas.
And if this happens, if this happens all as played out, this will be quite ironic because you'll have a winter where we're already almost into February, and we have Washington, D.C. and Philly with all the snow, and Scranton with their total entire winter snowfall total just a few inches.
It should be reversed, I think.
So what a screwed-up winter this is.
Yeah.
Well, we knew it was going to be a strange winter with El Nino, but this is definitely an interesting one for sure. So any parting thoughts with this particular storm? I think we kind of covered it all.
What do you think about New Jersey? What do you think they're going to do?
We got to do New Jersey. There's a lot of New Jersey people. Wow. Well, definitely. If you're down the shore, Cape May, Atlantic City, you're in for a good. We should also mention the possibility of, if you're down that far, there could be some mixing. I saw some sleet possibly mixing.
Yes,
in.
I think if you're getting a little bit further toward Cape May area, you may actually get less snowfall because of the mixing, because you do have a lot of that warm Gulf Stream air that'll be brought in, so you may get more in the way of sleet. Maybe a little bit of rain. You're going to have more of a mixed bag, I think, down there.
But keep in mind, folks, that probably is even worse because that's going to make whatever amount of snow on the ground even heavier.
Yeah, and then you get that ice crust on top of it.
Man, you're going to need like a bulldozer to move that stuff down there.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like central New Jersey.
Yeah, that's going to be jackpot zone.
I think it's going to be like 12 to 18.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Let me see, what do I have? Because
I have New York City for 10 to 14.
Yeah, I didn't really see my website. Pretty much I have the counties broken down. I never really attest to forecasting for New York, but I have like Warren County, Hunterdon County, like in the 8 to 15 range. Yeah, so you and I tend to agree with that.
You're going a little bit lower than I am.
Yeah, I'm going a little bit lower. Once again, me being the conservative one today. I don't know. I guess I've just been ripped off so many times by snowstorms. I'm being a little more cautious.
Yeah, well, I figure this is our first big one.
Yeah.
Let's take a few gambles.
Let's have a little fun. Yeah, okay. Well, either way, folks, it's more snow than we've had all season and since last year, so let's have a little bit of fun, I guess, right?
Yeah, with a winter storm Jonas.
Don't even get me going on that. Yeah. My wife said, it's Jonas. I'm like, yeah, okay. That's the Weather Channel. Our fine friends at the Weather Channel decided to name Winter Storm some years back, and I thought they would have dropped that by now and said this is
I thought so too.
But they're keeping it up. They're keeping it up.
Yeah, and I guess it's something to be said to their will and
they're consistent.
Yeah.
So Winter Storm Jonas. We'll see what Jonas does. I guess we'll just very briefly take a look beyond that. It looks like we warm up a little bit at the end of the month. It doesn't look quite as brutally cold end of the month.
Yeah, the strange thing is Sunday, it's supposed to be sunny.
Yeah.
And even a little bit above freezing.
I saw that, yeah.
So we could be getting a little bit of that snow starting to
melt already, yeah.
Already, even the day after.
Okay.
There'll be a lot of snow to melt. But the good thing is it doesn't appear that there's going to be any rain in the near future. And rain always melts snow a lot faster than the temperature would.
Yep.
So hopefully the snow melts at a reasonable rate that we don't have flooding issues.
That's something that happened in '96. You weren't in the area then, but we had our big blizzard in early January, and then mid-January we had a big rainstorm, and that was disastrous. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we don't have that again this year.
Yeah, but the rest of the week, next week is looking pretty good.
Pretty quiet, yeah.
There does appear to be another storm brewing next weekend.
I saw that thing. Yeah, I'm not even touching looking at it because...
Yeah, let's focus on this one first.
and sometimes the models are not too good at doing another storm until one's passed and the atmosphere is cleaned out and they can reprogram themselves. Yeah, I'm not even. I saw that, but I'm not worrying about it yet.
But the models, I will say, have it going much further out to sea.
I saw that. Yeah, so it might be a total miss.
We may dodge that one.
Well, there you have it, folks. 22 minutes. We didn't even have to do a topic of the week or anything. We just covered it all on Winter Storm Jonas.
It's not like there was anything to talk about.
There's really nothing else to talk about other than Jonas. So here I am being a smarty pants. I'm just being a smarty pants. All right, folks. So, again, this is all subject to last minute change. So for up to the minute stuff, you want to promote your Facebook page?
Dr. Davis's weather forecasts.
And hopefully you'll be doing some Facebooking tomorrow during the storm. Maybe.
I plan on it. I mean, I don't plan on going anywhere.
Okay.
And I will say I got over 300 likes yesterday, so thank you to
that.
all my followers.
Storms always help likes. I picked up like an extra 50 just this week. So it's
and over 1,000 views in my page.
I saw, it's just like storms help. Storms help. So on me for its Monsoon Mike's Weather Headquarters, and we'll do what we can to keep you posted. So stay safe out there. Don't go crazy shoveling it. We don't want anybody dropping over. Don't drive tomorrow. That's pretty much safe to say. And probably don't want to be driving much Sunday either unless you have to. It's going to take some time to clean up, I would think. Mm-hmm. So
I'd probably say let the road crews do their work.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll see you next week, Dr. Davis.
Sounds good.